I'm Andre Khatchaturian for Armenian Sports News, along with Brian Goorjian, Australia's men's basketball team head coach. And Brian is joining us today from all the way in the land down under in Australia. Brian, how are you today?
I'm great. No, happy to be settled back in Melbourne after a tremendous experience in the Olympics.
It's good. Thank you for your time. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. It's awesome that what you guys did down there. Brian and the Australian squad won the bronze medal in the Olympics. Looked good in the semifinals and in the first half. You guys were doing very well against the United States. The Americans pulled away and eventually won the gold. But you guys bounced back against Slovenia and won the bronze medal. But before we talk about the Olympics, Brian, I want to talk to you about your background. You grew up in Southern California. You were born there, and you also attended Crescenta Valley High School, which has a soft spot in my heart because I went there too. I was class of '08, and you're, I believe, class of '73.
Class of '71.
Class of '71. Okay, thank you for the correction. You were class of '71, and you played for your father there, Ed Goorjian, who's a CV legend. Coached there for 18 years, won 7 league championships. Tell me about that experience growing up in La Crescenta and playing for your father and just growing up in Glendale as a young Armenian kid.
Now it's interesting now because I've been away for so long, and I know that Glendale, when you're in Australia and I'm in the Homenetmen in the Armenian community, they go, "Oh, Glendale, man, all the Armenians are in Glendale," and it's like that's the case now. But honestly, when I went to Crescenta Valley High School and my dad was the head coach, there was only one other Armenian kid at Crescenta Valley, and nobody knew what an Armenian was. There was no, it was absolutely, there was a guy named Jeff Kalunian that we were kind of mates because we had the common, we're Armenian, but nobody knew what an Armenian was or where that was from. Or I'd bring the food in my, pilaf and lamb and sandwiches from my grandparents and stuff, and everybody would want to trade and, what is this food? Where are you from? But now, obviously, there's been a big change. But, growing up in Crescenta Valley, we were in a new track home. I was born in Glendale. My father was born in Los Angeles. His father escaped the genocide and came across to L.A. and had an apartment block in downtown L.A. My grandfather and my grandmother, my dad was born in downtown Los Angeles, right next in Inglewood, right down around there. And then, was a serviceman, military man, and then came back and settled in La Crescenta. It was a growing area. We were in a new track homes up above Foothill Boulevard. During that time, grew up with my dad as the first, coach at Crescenta Valley High School. And he formed a basketball tradition back there. We were really strong in a very strong Foothill league. We were a powerhouse in basketball, and playing for my father, and our program was highly recognized. I loved my whole high school experience. We went 29-1 my senior year, and lost to Bourbon Day in the CIF finals. Got a scholarship to Pepperdine University. Spent 4 years at Pepperdine, played with Dennis Johnson, the famous player that was with Larry Bird and that group. And then at the end of that, I got offered a contract to go play in Australia.
So what about it? You come there, you're a young kid, 22, 23, leaving Pepperdine, leaving beautiful Southern California. You get to Australia. What drew you to Australia where you never went back?
I just really enjoyed the fact that I could, back then there was, unless you were in the NBA or an NBA player, after you graduated from school, there was no place to play. Your sport's finished, go get a job. Where here I am, I come to Australia and I get to play professional basketball, and I get to stay in my passion, which, like my education, my degree was in teaching. So I became the sports master at a local school. So I could continue to be employed and work at my profession. I could coach. And then I was also staying and playing professional basketball. So, when I finished playing, I immediately got an offer to go into coaching. And it just, met my wife, had my daughter, and Australia. It just a smooth transition, and, never looked back.
That's amazing. Especially not a lot of people can say that they literally, follow their father's footsteps and became what their father became, a head coach. What is that feeling like? Do what your father was able to do, and kind of carry that success to another level where you ended up winning an Olympic medal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I fell in love with basketball through my father. We put a basket up on the driveway. I played all sports, but through my father, just had a genuine love for basketball and a passion. I like competition. I like sport. And then, I used to, when I was 11, 12 years old, I'd sit in the back of my dad's car and go to the games and sit behind the bench nervously watching my dad's team play. He's my father and I loved him and I wanted him to win. And I know how disappointed he was if he didn't. So I developed a passion for it. And I'd sit in the back seat as he discussed things with his assistant coach coming home from games when I was real young. And, so I guess I was getting an education outside of just playing, the X's and O's of the game, the things that were important in being a good player, all of that stuff were being translated to me from the front seat of the car into the back seat.
And you kind of talked about, before we started recording, some of the challenges going into this particular Olympics, especially with the pandemic and everything. What were some of those challenges, and why do you think you were able to overcome those challenges and have such a successful run?
The challenges was one, obviously COVID, but that affected everybody. But the other challenge for me was we had just a very short 5-day, 6-day practice situation in Vegas. And then we had 3 practice games in Vegas, Nigeria, Team USA, Argentina, and then we went to the Village and played. So I had a very small window to organize an offense, organize a defense, select the team. And number 2, I had a brand new coaching staff. But what we did have was guys that had been together for 12 years, and this was their pinnacle. This was their time. So guys like Patty Mills, Joe Ingles, Aaron Baines, Matthew Deladova, our leadership group, had been working towards this medal for 12 years. This medal, bronze medal, may be one of the biggest medals in Australia history that isn't gold. And the fact that in the Olympic history, Oceania, our region, Asia, has never, ever medaled.
How does that make you feel personally, that you were able to be part of a historic team like that? Especially, it's your adopted home now, and you're able to come there and elevate this team to medal status.
This is the icing on the cake to in my age, to be coming towards the end of your coaching and get that medal. Really is a nice topper to get a medal, have those championships under my belt, but that last step of medaling and really going into this was the goal. But as you said, Slovenia, France, the teams that didn't qualify and not knowing at that time, Lithuania, Serbia, there's all these tremendous teams, and the challenge is immense. So really gratifying, and right now I'm still emotional about it. Coming back to the country, everybody was watching the game. It had a tremendous following. It captured the country, and more so than you imagine, because you were involved in the event. You were removed from everything.
And obviously you made the entire Australia and the entire Oceania region so proud with your achievement. But obviously anyone who's watching the game, especially Armenians, they see that IAN at the end of your last name, they immediately know who you are and where you come from. What is it like to represent Armenians who see that last name and they immediately support you for that?
No, I mean, it's when I came, as I said, I mean, growing up in La Crescenta, the Armenian community up there was no Armenians, and every now and then there'd be an event, and my father and I would go into Pasadena, and they would have but I'd only get touched very rarely, over the course of my time. And every now and then, Jerry Tarkanian, there'd be some guys, he's Armenian. There was a Fresno community, but I was removed from all that. And when I came to Australia, I got a phone call right away when our game was on TV. And they said, we're Armenian. We have a club called the Homenetmen, and we play basketball. We play sport. We have scouts. We have 20,000 members. Would you please, come, and we'd love to welcome you, so that was my first real touch of the Armenian community. And through that was in Melbourne. That was in Melbourne.
What year, around approximately?
This is probably 1978.
Okay, so it was right when you had gotten.
Yeah. So right. I mean, our game was on TV. and they saw the last name IAN, and I ended up playing. The Homenetmen play in Melbourne. And then at the end of the year, there's a game between them and Sydney. And Sydney had a team, and it was hilarious when we played. I was like I was like Magic Johnson. I'm 6'4", and the Armenian team, none of them were professional players. They're all small guys and all friends. And I trained with them, and I coached and played. And we went over and played Sydney, and Sydney had never lost to Melbourne. And I come rolling in there with the team, and they're looking at me and they're going, "This guy isn't Armenian, he's Jewish." And I'm like, "No, mate, I'm Armenian." So we ended up playing that game, and I had 40 some points, and we beat Sydney, and there was a big ball, and the Armenians in Melbourne just, the Tastians were the guy that ran it. We were real close, and and I said, the next year I'm not going to play. I'm just going to coach him, and we're going to go to Sydney and beat your butt again. And because they complain, it's unfair. I'm a professional player. So the next year we went there with all my buddies that we trained twice a week, and we went there and we won again. And those guys, that whole team, we became, friends, and we're still friends to this day, and the competition, the guys, I'd go to Sydney and play, and there'd be an Armenian section, but much more of a community than was in Locker Center or Glendale for me. And I know that's changed now, but it really brought me to my roots, and always talking about the things my father had told me about what the challenges my grandparents went through, and the pride of being an Armenian, and hardworking, and you're representing your culture, your upbringing. And these people are the same. Armenians from all over, from Turkey, from Iran, from all aspects. And a lot of them go back to Armenian. There's Armenian schools here. A lot of my friends want their kids to speak Armenian, want their kids to be educated in Armenia, want them to marry other Armenians. It's strong. And as you said, it's funny, through sport, the guy that was on the mic interviewing us from he's like the main media guy with the IOC, international, the Olympic Committee. And you come up and you're being interviewed, and I walk up, and Patty's next to me, and we sit at the table, and you got all the media there from all over the world to interview you after the game. And the guy shakes my hand, and he looks down at my name, and he goes, "Are you Armenian?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "So am I." So I mean, the name, like you say, and the friendships through the sport, and being overseas, has really has been powerful.
Yeah, that's such a familiar story. Two Armenians meeting anywhere in the world. Obviously,
Correct.
Khatchaturian's famous short story harkens back to that. And your grandparents, obviously, you said they're genocide survivors, and they obviously had all of those challenges. And now, fast forward a century later, and you have this Olympic medal, and your father had his own success as a coach. And what does it feel to be just kind of part of that survival story?
No, I mean, it drives you. You want to be successful, and it comes, and do Armenians throughout the world, being proud, accomplishing something, being successful. It's an added, you come from a lot of my family, self-made, hardworking, right through my grandparents, before his grandparents, and it's something that's pushed through you from when I was a child. And my dad was strong on that. You're representing, a culture and your heritage that has been through a lot. And be proud, work hard, become the best you can be. All of those things that are important in sport, but there's kind of an added push about doing your heritage proud. And it's become even stronger through meeting more Armenians and being more involved in the Armenian community in Australia. So there's a lot of pluses to all this that makes you proud, but being an Armenian adds even more to it.
That's really amazing. Brian, I could sit and talk with you all day. You have amazing stories, but seriously, thank you so much for your time. You make the Armenian people proud, and you're a good representative of the Armenian community, and we're all very proud of you for your achievement.
Thank you very much. Thank you.